Um, so
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson, and today I'm joined by he who's friendly to everybody, especially in Springfield, a one Buddy Duffman.
oh yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about probably one of the better comic book movies we've had recently.
And of course, I'm joined by he whose analytical skills knows no bounds, uh, a Donatello in human form, a one Scare Shuffle. Now, for the uninitiated, I'm gonna just go ahead and give this little quick disclaimer. As a reminder, we don't actually make money off of this. We're not sponsored, okay? We're not sponsored. So that means when we tell you something about how we feel in a movie, it's how we feel. It's not paid for. That being said, as a quick reminder, although we are monetized, we do not get monetized when we show footage of anything at any point in time. So normally I would have a trailer in a loop, but since this is a grading and not a discussion, I'm not going to be doing that. But even still, we might get demonetized just for having this damn picture up, which I really wish they wouldn't do. I will say they did perfectly encapsulate with this promotional art or promotional photography or edit, I guess, the feeling of a comic book cover art in live action format because it feels weird for me to look at, but it makes sense and I like it because I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it feel like this is some form of a comic book cover art. So good on you, Mr. Gunn, if you even oversaw this, that is. With that being said, our topic criteria for those of you who aren't watching the video version of this podcast are story writing, characters and their acting, visual effects and the overall cinematography, uh, audio, all things about it, and your favorite moments. Maximum two, because we could possibly be here longer than we need to. All right. So, with that being said, Mr. Duffman, why don't you go ahead and take questions 1 through 5,
All
starting off
right,
with story slash writing.
yeah. So I think I'll give the story, like the writing aspects of the movie, a B plus. It felt like they were trying to jam pack a lot of stuff into it. Like it felt very much like, particularly like towards the later part of the movie, that like they were just hitting bullet points for story beats. So it kind of didn't really give you as the audience a time to like absorb what happened, or like it didn't really give a lot of character development and growth, which you could argue that you don't really need that with a character in the cultural zeitgeist as Superman, but it still um, did have some good moments for like just introducing these actors in these portrayals of the characters. But it almost felt like, for it being like a 2 hour, 9 minute movie, that, or however long that works out pre credits rolling, is like they kind of felt like they took beats that could have been two movies and kind of uh, Frankensteined them together into one. But it was really enjoyable overall. Really enjoyed the character portrayals and the acting. It was, I think, really well done to give it an A. I think David Cornsweet is stepping into the big, I think, red booties of Superman fairly well, filling in some big shoes from Christopher Reeve and more recently like Henry Cavill. But I think he does a really good job at both Clark Kent and Superman, which um, it is a very important dichotomy. And I think some of the movies we've had more recently kind of focused more on the Superman aspect of the character, less so much the Clark part. But I think standouts in the cast for me are probably Beck Bennett as uh, the sports news columnist, and oh crap, I just had it up. Yeah, Steve Lombard, and uh, I enjoyed Rachel Brosnahan's. I hope I didn't butcher that portrayal of Lois Lane because it's very much a little bit of a different take on the character than some people might be used to seeing. Um, I
So,
do.
what grade do you give characters in acting?
I give it an A. Sorry,
Okay.
I said that. I give the visual effects, the visual effects and cinematography an A as well. There were some scenes that were kind of like visually striking, um, particularly when Clark or Superman and Lois are talking in Clark's apartment while the Justice League is fighting some weird extra dimensional creature outside. Like the lighting effects and like the visuals of that were just really well done. I think it was very visually a stunning moment in the picture. And overall, it was like really well produced. You didn't have anything that really kind of stood out or going as errors either with like the special effects or practical effects. I'll give the audio mix and like stuff an A as well. The balance was really well done. I didn't think that the uh, sound effects or the music washed out any of the actor dialogue, which sometimes happens in movies. I don't know how the arcane magic works with mixing movies, but I know some do a better job than others for making things decipherable to a cinema. Um, I think for like my favorite moments in the movie, it's probably at the end of the movie when they introduce Supergirl, just because of the sass and just how totally different she is from her cousin, and then the part where robot or Superman robot number four gets his name of Gary. But I think it was really hard just to choose two because there were a lot of standout moments.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I didn't do that to, like, just for the record, I didn't give the maximum, three standout
Oh yeah,
characters and two standout favorite moments because of some speed requirement. It was because I knew that that would dramatically balloon the
yeah.
episode because we would be talking about that shit all day.
There's just so much. And like it's a James Gunn film, so like there's all the cameos that if you were like in a film with James Gunn, you know to expect. It's like just the cast of folks that were in and as bit parts or like just the faceless Superman robots is kind of cool. But that's about all I have to say about that.
Okay, definitely appreciate you coming through. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but in a rare instance of missing, uh, I'm sure if we have any long time listeners, which I'm not even sure we do, because it seems like we get new people and then they just stay for a little bit and go. Um, the audience should know that I like to have IMDb links for everyone so they can see the characters or who portrayed them in case they want to do some descriptions. In a rare instance of I don't even understand how the fuck this happened, IMDb does not actually have the proper listings for the entire cast of this movie. Almost every single person is listed as self, meaning that they're playing themselves in real life in this movie, which is not the case. I don't hate Rachel Brosnahan. In fact, her entire adult body of work, I don't think I've ever seen a miss come from her if she was nearing the top of the billing or production. But I know damn well she ain't a journalist and she would suck at it. Call it a hunch. So, quite literally, when I see that Lois Lane is Rachel Brosnahan as self, I'm like, nope, there's something off here. So you'll have to excuse us if we only describe the characters and not the actors playing them. I don't know why it's happened. It's been like that for some days, and it's bugging me. But I would rather tell you guys now instead of pausing the video or pausing during the recording, and then in edit removing it when we go and manually look up each individual person. It's crazy. But yeah, moving on. All right, Scare Shuffle. Go ahead and let us know your gradings for things 1 through 5.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm gonna be honest. I got what I wanted out of this movie from a story and writing perspective. Uh, like overall, it's exactly what I wanted out of a modern day Superman movie. I have some issues, like some things were kind of rushed since they wanted to skip the origin story, and there was like other things that were kind of done because this movie had a lot riding on its shoulders. Like if this movie didn't set up certain things and have like, it's trying to establish the world of the DCU so that other things moving forward can make sense. Uh, Overall, though, like the story was very well written. It was emotional. James Gunn being James Gunn, very well done. However, because of all of those kind of issues I have with the writing from Rush and trying to fit so much at once, like I gotta give it a B. It's on the cusp of B plus, but it's a B. The characters and acting, though, I give a straight up A. Like I'm not even gonna question that. David Cornsweet as Superman, best Superman I've seen in a long time. Very much a modern day interpretation of the Big Blue Boy Scout. Oh wait, there was one thing I did want to talk about the story that I forgot about. One issue I did have was the whole harem stuff and the parent. Like, I get why they did what they did, why they did the story beat of, oh hey, yeah, he sent them there to conquer and have a harem and whatnot. Like, I thought the harem was a bit much, and it'd be like one thing if that was like a little thing from Lex, but they said 3 times, like, nope, this is not modified at all. Lex did not fake this. I'm like, okay, that feels weird in a message to send with your child. Like, conquer and, like, bring back Krypton race, that's one thing. But, like, the harem, I don't know, that felt like a bit much to me. I get it was played for laughs, but kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I get why they did it, though it isn't doing wonders for stopping the whole evil Superman trope. I mean, the whole thing with, like, the podcast, it's like nature versus nurture, very well done. But it still is kind of like being like teetering. It's teetering a little bit. But as for characters, though, and acting, like, no, David Cornsweet as Superman killed it. Like, best Superman I've seen in a long time. I can't really, like, even compare him to Cavill, because Cavill's writing, he didn't have the best to work with. Like, he did good with what he was given, but, like, when you have the writing of, what was I supposed to do? Just let him die? I don't know. Maybe. Like, I'm sorry. Kind of hard to say he really had a fair chance, even with the Snyder Cut doing a better job. But I will also, but yeah, other character, Mr. Terrific fucking killed. I loved Mr. Terrific. That felt like Mr. Terrific. Absolute standout. Like, analytical, like, I don't do emotions, but still kind of a wise ass, and still you can see him get agitated.
Oh, that's
kind of contradicting what he's saying, but
identify with Mr. Terrific. Whoever would have guessed?
I didn't say I identify with Mr. Terrific. I just said I like Mr. Terrific.
And I said you identify.
And I don't.
And I disagree.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Anyway, but great job with Terrific. Very good adaptation of that character, I felt. And then, honestly, best live action Jimmy Olsen. That was fucking Jimmy Olsen. I haven't gotten a good Jimmy in I don't know how long. The last time was maybe Superman the Animated Series. Like, I don't even remember the last time I got a good Jimmy Olsen adaptation.
That was the last time he had more than one sentence.
Yeah. Like, he showed up. I mean, well, no, Jimmy Olsen was in the Supergirl show, except that wasn't Jimmy Olsen. That wasn't Jimmy Olsen in the Supergirl show, and I watched almost every episode of that show. Yeah, that wasn't Jimmy. Sorry, that was not really Jimmy Olsen. Just kind of had the name. It's a very common trend, but fucking James Gunn's like, no, we're doing Jimmy, and we got Jimmy. Now, there's rumors of him getting a spin-off show, and oh my god, I would love that. Like, do the weird shit that like he had in his comics, like the weird side adventures of Jimmy Olsen. Please give me that. I want it. I'd want it so bad. But, and they actually made him a ginger. He was muted, but he was still a ginger. But, yeah. Just, yay, Jimmy. So, alright. VFX and cinematography. A. I don't have anything to say. Well done. There were some cool shots. Some things look good. There were a couple of VFX that I thought didn't look too great, but it's Hollywood. I've come to expect at this point. So for what this movie is, A. Audio. A. No issues, which is rare for a movie nowadays for me. So the fact that the audio was very well done, I'm very happy about that. And I was in an old theater watching this, where like the audio equipment's probably not up to par, and I'm saying that. So what were my favorite moments? Well, there is one thing I do want to say that I forgot to mention about. I want to talk about Supergirl, because I do really like Supergirl, and I read the book that they're about to base the movie on as well.
So that's two for Supergirl.
Well, no, Supergirl's not a favorite moment. I just had a comment about her.
Oh.
I am not the biggest fan of the direction they took. I know why they did it, and I know it's kind of setting up the next movie in terms of, like, you know, that is how that story starts. She turned 21 and then took a planet to a red sun to get drunk. But it kind of didn't make much sense that she came back drunk, and just, like, I don't think that's the best way to introduce her. Like, I guess if they're trying to aim for that teenage girl demographic market or just kind of cool party girl in the next movie, I get it. I mean, they got Lobo showing up in that movie, but I'm just like, that's not Supergirl to me. Like, it made sense. I get why they're doing it, but I'm just like, that doesn't feel like Supergirl. And that's the only reason I'd say that's not even a favorite moment. But what would I say are? The first one is kind of, it's not even a single moment. It's a few individual moments that kind of pay one another off. That's pretty punk rock to me. Like, I love that entire thing. Just the Iggy Pop song as well. Just between all of it, I'm like, that feels like Superman. Like, when I heard him say that line, I'm like, that's when I knew, I'm like, I got my big blue Boy Scout. He gets it! Because that is the type of corny shit Superman should be saying. like that is what I would hope for. And the other one, but like, it's also like a good through line. It very much gets the emotional core of the movie. Like, it's just, it's there. The other moment, it's the second post-credit scene. I'm sorry, that was just amazing. I found that hilarious.
Okay, that was funny. That post-credit scene felt like our relationship in written format. That, I like that, because I would totally be like that with you if you just put an entire city back together, and I noticed that.
Yeah, and I'd probably go, motherfucker, it's not enough.
Yes, that I know. That's why it works.
And you can indeed be a jerk sometimes.
Yes, and it's totally your fault.
Sure it is. But I mean, it's also like, I still wonder, I heard someone say this, and I wonder if it's like a good, and I kind of like the thought process. I don't know if it was intentional, but people were saying like, that was meant to be like James Gunn's way of saying like, this is him with like the DC Universe movie. It's like, I'm taking this mangled, destroyed like film universe and franchise and putting it back together. I'm managing to salvage it, but it's gonna look different and not be the way I did. And he knows that the response is gonna be it, and his response is, it's never enough, and he knows that.
I honestly hope that that's true, but even if it's not, it would still be cool.
Yeah, but like I heard someone say that, and that's also kind of what elevated that scene even more for me. I'm like, I kind of see it. You know, I mean, even look at Sinners. Kind of did a similar thing, which I know, very different movie, but kind of did a similar thing with their tribute to Chadwick Boseman with the sunrise scene. For those who've seen Sinners, because that also had a post-credit scene too, actually. So that's kind of how I felt about this scene, just, more in this manner. Also, for those of you who haven't seen it, go watch Sinners. But no, this is like overall, if I have, in my opinion, this movie's probably about an 8.5 out of 10 for me from my scale. If I am using the letter scale overall, I will give it an A minus. And
Okay.
yeah,
Well, always happy to hear your sometimes excited, sometimes analytical opinion. We truly do not have a member who can emulate you perfectly, so it's always better to have the original.
only
All
one
right,
me.
all right, Dr. Pepper. Let me go and pick a different color real quick, and it's my turn. Okay, so for story, I'm gonna do something extremely unique that I don't think um, anybody saw coming. So yeah, I give it a B. I totally agree with everything you guys said to the point where I'm almost mad, which is why I hate going last, but I accept it because we pretty much are all on the same page with that. However, my issues are somewhat different. My issue is not with pacing per se, although certain parts I feel like they don't linger on to enough, and some they linger on to too long. Um, my problem is that they didn't do some of the most basic things of having a small 10 or 15-second explainer, verbal, or a 10 or 15-second written explainer, much like a certain movie that I know Scare Shuffle is very familiar with called Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now,
I swear, can you ever go an episode with me in it without bringing up Scott Pilgrim?
I don't understand the question. So basically, in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, uh, it was much like this story. It was a world that had already been lived in. Everyone else knew the rules, but we, as the, for lack of a better term, audience, don't know these rules. And when you would meet someone new, you got an explanation, and it also had a somewhat comical blurb about their personality or something unique about them. They only did that in the opening to basically tell you it's been about 300 years since metahumans have been known to exist. And the strongest one is Superman. He just got his ass beat 3 minutes ago. That was
And we
funny.
also got the Star Wars opening crawl. That actually literally is the Scott Pilgrim opening. Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler. Text on
So,
screen and everything. Literally, it does. That was 3 minutes ago, and then he slams into the snow.
so yeah, I wanted them to keep doing that if they were going to keep introducing characters. The only ones we truly got a even partial explanation for, and it's a blink and you'll miss it because they gave it to you in fragments throughout the movie, was the Justice Gang. And I have to say the Justice Gang because at this point in time in the story chronologically, they have not become the Justice League or the Justice Society of America. They have become
Though
either.
the Justice Society was there in the Hall of Justice showed up. Supposedly there was a picture of the JSA in the background. I didn't catch it, but supposedly.
Yes, yes, it was there. So, um, because of the unique situation with how those characters are going to be handled, might be handled, may not be handled, but they're meant to show that they are the previous members and they've all retired or close to retired, and now these guys are roaming around. It can go either way. There's so many potentialities that could happen with anything relating to a superhero organization in this world because at this time it doesn't exist. So for all we know, we may just see the Super 7, which preceded the actual Justice League. Um, but
Are you talking about the Super Seven or the Seven Soldiers of Victory?
I don't know who the fuck that is, and I'm offended you think I do. So the way I see it, what's going to most likely what is my major issue is just that this world does not properly explain itself, and the few times there are an explainer, with the exception of Lex Luthor's monologues, which, yes, they were well written. However, Luthor is the type to not admit to some shit like that out loud in public. However, how is it truly in public if it's the executive office in a skyscraper that you own? Whoever's in that room, you authorized it. So the way I see it, I couldn't give it anything other than a B, because I heard whispers of people in the theater, whether they like Superman or not, constantly going, "Who is that? Are they just for the movie?" You know? And even the smallest little bit of explainers could have helped out. Yes, it is nice to have some mysteries, but there is a such thing as too many unanswered questions. And this movie embodies, for the average viewer, too many unanswered questions. Now, when it comes to characters and acting, I'm going to surprise people again, and I'm just going to go ahead and put an A plus. Don't worry, I promise that there will be a differentiation in how we view things. It just won't be right now. So, for me, one of the major standouts, again, is Mr. Terrific. Because Mr. Terrific came off as a combination of Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and an angrier version of someone who I won't be mentioning at this current time, who is in this video, who needs no introduction. And I
Now I
like
have
that.
to ask though, which version of Donatello? Because unfortunately now we have to differentiate because they don't all act the same.
See? See? Only a Mr. Terrific like mine would even think to ask something like that. So I enjoyed the character. I was not expecting, not so much to like or respect the character. I wasn't expecting the character's involvement in the story to go to the lengths and depths that it did. Because this, and I know some asshole online is going to say it, but Mr. Terrific was not Mr. Token. And that's one of the main reasons I like his character. Mr. Terrific is not Mr. Token in this movie. If you know the actual Justice League, the infrastructure, IT, and administration is almost single-handedly routed around three people when it comes to the non-magical stuff. Batman, Mr. Terrific, and Cyborg. That has not changed. In over like close to 50 years of Justice League history, that does not change. The biggest problem I had with Mr. Terrific wasn't even this, but it made me fucking hate Justice League a little bit more. Mr. Terrific is one of the only other minority characters in the entirety of the Justice League show, Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, whichever you prefer, who literally almost did nothing except sit down in a seat and talk to people. However, that is very on brand for the character, because they've strongly implied throughout the years he's not a douchebag, but he's extremely cold and calculating to the point where he may appear as if he does not give a shit about something. And when he shoots Lois Lane, the girlfriend among girlfriends of Superman, that motherfucker, shut your ass up, you heard what I said. Look, with no hesitation, no fear. And in the next moment, he's fighting, and to be honest, he's barely actually swinging and winning against a group of people. It is ridiculous.
You
He
fucking
just,
believe that shit when you watch it. You're like, damn.
yes, this guy came up here. Please go to push to talk, background noises. This guy, referring to you, Duffman, this guy was almost like a scene stealer. If it wasn't him, it was the next person I want to bring up, Guy Gardner. Because I knew going in, Guy Gardner has one of the most famous, unique personalities when it comes to the DC line of heroes. Guy Gardner is, as far as I know, one of the first examples of an American asshole hero since original grade Superman, who was basically just a sociopath, let's be honest. I have this begrudging love and respect for Guy Gardner that I genuinely do not like that I have. Because it's to a point where I'm like, what does this say about me as a person? But also, we all know, separate the art, in this case, not from what they did as a person, but separate the artistic depiction from the graphic novel depiction. In this case, it seems more like they leaned into it. He didn't go to the same extremes as he did, but to be fair, he's not in that big group team yet. But I do not
I,
like that they made him scared to go and get involved with a war. Because Guy Gardner is the definition of, if I think this is the wrong thing, fuck what you say. I'm going to try to do the right thing.
yep, there's the modern origin for him. He literally got kicked out of the police force for some bullshit like that. So,
Yeah, that
and
sounds like Guy Gardner.
yeah, uh, I mean, supposedly it was an accident, but he's like, but he doesn't regret what he did either. But
Yeah.
it's kind of, which is very Guy Gardner. I will say though, they did kind of like, to even what you were saying though, story wise earlier about them not giving that little blurb. They did at least kind of give a quick blurb for Guy Gardner. Like he kind of mentioned the Guardians of the Universe and being a space cop and whatnot. At least we did get that.
That's exactly what I'm mentioning. They're telling you small fragments that are blinking, you'll miss it, and even then, they don't do it for all the characters. Don't nobody know why Hawkwoman was yelling like a hawk? Personally, that was one of the only things that pissed me off about her character. It felt stupid to me. But yeah, those are just two of my biggest standouts. Now, as far as the main cast, hey, look, I hate to say it, but Mr. Corn Sweat, you have almost one of the most perfect Superman voices I've ever seen. You have that built-in peaceful, calming tone, but also that assertiveness that doesn't sound homicidal or sociopathic and dangerous like a Batman would or a Lex Luthor would. Okay? You you at least verbally for me were able to embody this is what I think a Superman should sound like.
He was very warm in his speech, if
Hey,
that
hey,
makes sense.
hey,
Like he made you feel very
hey,
warm,
hey,
which
hey.
is which is what you want from
Too
Superman.
many interjections, bro. Let's calm down a little bit. Um, so when it comes to VFX and cinematography, I'm in a unique position. So I'm giving it, and this is where we're actually going to see some differentiations. I'm going to give it a B plus. Where's the plus button? There it is. So listen, um, they didn't have to do anything extremely spectacular. They didn't have to do anything that was overblown to the point of absurdity, like we're in a Dragon Ball fight. They found the perfect mix and balance of good action sequences, good camera angles, especially for aerial scenes that properly emote and aren't at terrible angles, and yet somehow they did the oldest trick in the book. Let's pull back a little bit and let's blur and smudge some low poly level models. That's where I have an actual issue. Almost nothing else bothers me. And sometimes, and I'm glad they actually got, as far as cinematography, they actually got good action sequences. Now, I've been saying this for a long time, and it's one of the only things I've truly been depressed by with James Gunn. When James Gunn is doing a movie that involves action, it's almost like they hire a different person, or James Gunn tries to brute force his way into making a good action sequence, and it doesn't come out as proper of an action sequence. Too many jump cuts, etc., etc. And I didn't realize just how underwhelming but exaggerated so you don't notice they were until you get to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And before the record, I am not saying Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a bad movie. In fact, quite the opposite. When you get to the hallway fight, mind you, this is one of the only times in the entire franchise of Guardians of the Galaxy movies where we've seen the entire team fight in unison. One of the only times. It was so beautiful and perfect. And my brain immediately realized when it was over, why didn't they do at least one sequence like that in every team movie, which is the entirety of the Guardians of the Galaxy? So I just thought, I looked at it like, oh, fuck. Well, they're not going to do that with this movie. They probably won't even be able to get the same people. Now, because of IMDb, I don't even know who did the action and cinematography and stunt work for this movie. But let me tell you something. Thank you. You earned your shit. Superman fighting a bunch of people who can't really hurt him in rocket suits basically a bunch of lesser Iron Men. That felt realistic. They would try to dogpile him, and all he got to do is turn into a washing machine and blow them off of his ass. The use of the laser beams felt realistic, and the way they were portrayed. My only problem with them, they were too bright white in the middle. I don't know why people seem to think that when Superman does his heat vision, there's this giant white light coming out of him. That's not how that works, and it's rarely even portrayed like that in any other form of media, including the comics. But I get it on some level, you know? But honestly, that was the only issue because sometimes I actually want things to be up a lot closer so we can actually see more details or the fight could be more interesting. Case in point, one of my favorite parts, and this is a preview of what I'm going to say on number 5. I laughed my ass off when Crypto was coming in and he interrupted Lex Luthor's third and final attempt, and I stress that word attempt, or should I say 2.5 attempts at a diabolical monologue. He shut it down completely. And it was funny as hell, and I loved it. But really stop and think about it. They kept cutting away from it. They didn't really show how he was being ragdolled. They literally hid most of it behind those tables that were in that room. Motherfucker, I want to see that. Would it have been expensive? Yes. But, there's ways to do it. They could have just made it shorter, as just let me see it. The pull back and do a big blur thing doesn't always work, and it bugs me. Now, as far as audio, I'm gonna be like everybody else. But here's where I differentiate, and that's with the grading. B, just a flat B. Did I hate the audio? Absolutely not. Here's the problem, though, was what I've been saying with a lot of like big Hollywood blockbuster movies. Listen, not everything is gonna have some randomly really catchy tune soundtrack that they over promote and over market and over advertise. Okay? I'm not saying that they should. What I am saying is there should be an iconic, memorable track. The Superman theme they did, I can't even remember how it sounds. And I don't think anyone can. And the few times they played music in this movie, I don't even think most people remember what they were outside of when they was talking about his choice in music as a teenager. Literally. So, that means that the majority of this grade is going to the sound effects. And I loved it. I am still mad that in my brain, when I see Superman moving at high speeds, I still hear the animated series sound effects, and I know they didn't play that. But what they worked with and what they did and the stuff they made up, it was convincing. And I watched it in IMAX because I'm not a chicken like some people. So that means that the audio fucking basically sounded like it was meant to sound. So I can say that the mixing was done spectacularly, and their choice of unique sound effects, not just stock stuff, was great. In fact, I don't think I heard any real stock stuff outside of crowd screams, and that's debatable. So whoever did the scoring and the engineering and composition for this movie, you earned your paycheck, good sir and or madam. And I look forward to what you do in the future. What I'm more worried about is a memorable track in general. Now, when it comes to my favorite moments, well, I already spoiled one, but look. Crypto. He didn't steal the show. That was Mr. Terrific. Okay? But Crypto coming in when Lex Luthor is basically getting ready to tell you the equivalent of nuh-uh when Superman's telling him, Lex, do you understand that I don't even have to be your enemy? You don't need to make me your enemy. Okay? I'm trying to do good. Why is it that you can't seem to understand? I am not here to do evil. That's basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing because not only do I not want to spoil that speech that he gives, which is so Superman, but also I don't actually remember all of it. So why ruin it if I don't remember it, But listen, when he's about to basically retort and say, so that's all you got to say, and then Crypto flies in and just decides, ooh, I need a new play toy. Oh, look, it's a bald guy. And he wings him across this room. He's crying and shit. And then when you see him, when he finally stands back up, dude has a dislocated arm, forearm, or either a wrist. I don't know. He is terrified of that fucking dog. And the dog thought the shit was funny. The dog don't even hate Lex Luthor. The dog just wanted a toy. And as far as second moments, I know I should say in my heart when Lois Lane made Superman look like a little bitch with her interview because I hate to say it, but I'm bored with the whole oh Lois Lane and Superman always have to have some type of issue anytime they're in a live action movie. There has to be some type of tension between them. Why can't he just have tension between other motherfuckers in the movie? Um, I was good. I was bored by it, and I felt myself damn near falling asleep. But when they got into the actual full interview, when you see Superman being asked questions that a Superman would be asked if he did exist and did what he did, barring we were under a different administration, that was when I realized, oh shit, this is going to be the only time we can take Lois Lane seriously this whole movie. But this is a really good written and acted scene. This is one of the few times when I can say everything was in sync. The story, the actors, the way they were emoting, the stakes, the breaking up the interview in between just to go, are you seriously going to throw me in the ground, throw me to the wolves like this? That shit, that's real. That is fucking real. Because I don't know if you two are the literally the newest members, so y'all don't know. A lot of my life stories, when I change around names, that was because the person who was involved with them asked me to whether they were on the right or wrong side of history, if you will. So I know firsthand what conversations like of that nature are like, and that was very accurate. You might start off lighthearted, and then it gets darker, or you might start off dark and end on a lighthearted note. You don't want them to feel like you're abusing the relationship or abusing it for profit. I make sure to always show them that I haven't even made money off this shit. That's how I know for a fact we've only made like $5.80 something cents because first off, I can't even get it until we hit $100. And then once that happens, I got to divide it up by however many people I need to divide it up between in this fucking group. So once they understood that, they got more calm and understanding. But, there's still that tension of I don't want to say the wrong thing at this moment. So I'm very familiar with that. Even in the interviews I do of directors and other people, I make sure they understand, listen, I'm not some scumbag online trying to get a quick buck off of your suffering. And I guess a third moment, um, you know, just I won't call it a moment per se. Almost every single line that came out of Guy Gardner's mouth, with the exception of when he's talking to Lois Lane, could damn near be a one-liner. Like, he had this perfect mix of I'm being serious, but the audience is going to take this as a joke shit going on. And the last one, I won't say it's a favorite moment, but it's a I want to know, is this going to be a red herring moment? Maxwell Lord is in this movie, or really in this franchise. And for those who don't know, if you think Lex Luthor is bad, imagine if Lex Luthor had direct access to the heroes and telekinetic abilities to fuck with them while trying to make himself feel and look like the good guy. So I want to know, was that just a red herring? Or is that going to lead to something further down the line? Because remember, as far as we know, Gunn's on the hook to do about, I believe, 8 DC movies. And he has the option to extend it or decrease it if he wants. And also, why I'm not sure if it's a red herring, it's James Gunn. As we all know, he is a big fan of ye olde nepotism, not the criminal kind. So if his brother is showing up only for maybe 5 or 6 seconds now as Maxwell Lord, who's to say that that's not going to end with some type of Justice Society of America versus Justice League, or some form of, okay, here's your big superhero fight movie. We all know you wanted it, but we had to make sure it still had a good story behind it and a good reason for them to be doing it. Let's build up the world first and let's get them to this point. And that'll be my magnum opus. Yes, Shuffle?
Uh, I have worries about Max Lord with that casting. As a Maxwell Lord fan, I'm like, oh, I
That
don't
is
like
the
that.
last person I would expect you to be a fan of. That's interesting.
My 3 favorite comic characters are Tim Drake, Blue Beetle, either one, or Booster Gold. I live in the JLI era.
That is also surprising. So, for those who don't know, Maxwell Lord, because again, this falls in the category of blink and you'll miss them talking about it. Maxwell Lord is the one funding the Justice Gang. In fact, I couldn't see it from that angle, and I'm in an IMAX screen, but I believe the insignia on their chest is not a J and an L. I believe it's a capital M and a capital L for Maxwell Lord.
That is correct. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah, but it's really hard to see because, well, I feel like he might have done it on purpose because, again, James Gunn is known for red herring type bullshit. He purposely didn't have them colored in different layers. So the entire logo almost looked like it's all white and says ML. You can't really see that on the screen when half the characters are leaning or tilted sideways or even when it's close up because you're staring at the character talking. So that's why I was never really sure. But I don't know if that's going to end up being a nothing burger and something they resolve in one movie and it's a small B plot, or if it's going to be something epic that ends up with a magnum opus of an Avenger level threat. Yes, I know we're talking about DC and I said Avenger level threat, but guess what? Sue me, I don't care.
Phrase is iconic for a reason.
Yeah, because we don't have good X-Men movies. So basically, from what I'm gathering, we all pretty much like this movie. The only major differences is we feel differently about the cinematography, and I'm okay with that. Even though we are not an echo chamber, you know, we are also not contrarians, which I don't know if contrarian means you're automatically an asshole or if being a contrarian means that you don't seem to comprehend that you instinctually believing the vast majority is wrong is unhealthy. I'm always torn between that.
It's like one of three. Like, there's three types of contrarians in my mind.
Yeah, well, I just got the two, and even then, they're both a headache for different reasons. Um, so I definitely appreciate you guys coming through, but I'm gonna just ask you both, and say how you feel. When the next Superman movie comes around, you gonna go see it?
Oh, absolutely. Not even a question.
Yeah, I'll probably go see it. I might not see it opening weekend, depending on stuff, but I'll definitely see it while it's in theaters.
Okay.
Also, to add a quick amendum, your comment about the music got me to reduce my audio score to a B plus. God damn it, you're right. And it's just a slightly remixed John Williams Superman theme.
The fact that you even know that is impressive. So uh, I think we all agree the only bad thing truly with this movie is when Dean Tanaka, who uses the Hollywood moniker Kane for his last name, started opening his mouth. And if that's the only true negative I can think of for this movie, outside of, like I said, yes, it's in the middle of its own, world and lore, but there was still should have been some explainers, no matter how short. I feel like they're in a good place, and this is a strong showing for James Gunn. He did well with Suicide Squad, but you got to understand, in Suicide Squad, what was he doing? He was writing in a world that was basically ass, and he was doing the best he can with material he didn't really, engineer, and he still did
Sure.
well. But
So
because
fun fact about Suicide Squad with James Gunn, actually. So basically, he requested that. Like, the Warner Brothers execs brought him into a room and said, "We'll let you make any DC movie you want, Superman, whatever," and he would cut them off and go Suicide Squad. And he's like, "I've wanted to make this movie for 10 years. Let me make Suicide Squad." And to be honest, the Suicide Squad is kind of like the Guardians in terms of band of misfits of random ass characters you've never heard of getting together and being forced to work together, and voila, beat bad guy with emotional core. So it is in his wheelhouse.
feel better.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will say I'm glad he didn't at least put a 2 on it because it sounds really messed up. But most of the people I know that enjoyed that movie that he did of Suicide Squad, they enjoy it because they thought it was a reboot of the original Suicide Squad movie, not a sequel. Because if they thought it was a sequel, they wouldn't have even gone and touched it. So I'm happy that Mr. Gunn is doing what Mr. Gunn does best, which is just making a good movie, and sometimes some of the characters are superheroes, because that's how it should be. A good story comes before anything else when you are writing. It comes before character design, it comes before how you feel about how it should end. You need to have a good story, a good premise, and you need to build on top of a strong foundation. You almost got to think about it like a tree or a house. Would you climb a tree if it only had one little thread in the ground holding it there in place? Would you live in a house if the only thing keeping together was one singular thick ass Jenga like brick? Fuck no. At least not by choice. And that should be applied to everything. Um, with that being said, I appreciate you guys coming through, and I look forward to reviewing Fantastic Four with you all. See you in the next one.
Yep. Catch you guys on the